Welcome to the inaugural episode of Two Geeks and a Movie. I'm here with my good friend Manny Film Rascal. Today we're going to be discussing the most recent film that we both saw, the new Ghostbusters movie 2016, starring Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy,
Kate McKinnon.
Thank you. And Leslie Jones. And to get through this, we have some tall boys with us.
I mentioned to my wife that, you were gonna have me on to kind of do this review with you about Ghostbusters. And so there I am. I actually went to the movie theater by myself, right? I went by myself because, we had a pack and all sorts of things. So
I went to the movie theater by myself too.
There you go, because that's what geeks do, right? But anyway, so we went and I was pretty much the only one there for a little while.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I was the only one there for a little while. And then maybe right before the movie started, there was maybe like myself and another 11, 12 people. That's it.
Yeah, we had similar experiences in different movie theaters. I think just like the Buster Bros, hashtag Buster Bro. So I'm thinking like the Buster Bros are really like, ugh, we're not gonna go see this movie, and they're succeeding at it. They're succeeding at spreading the word.
There was a lot of hate for this movie, I will say, and it was the hate was well publicized, and it got to the point where even Paul Feig, the director, and the studio heads and the actors in the movie started coming out and attacking these so-called haters. Right? And so the way that they started kind of like attacking back, or defending themselves, I should say, is by saying that like, well, if you're hating on this movie, you must be sexist. You are misogynist. Yeah. And it's not okay.
Chauvinistic.
You're chauvinistic, you're a misogynist, you only hate this because they're women. You're aware that this movie started receiving a lot of hate the moment the cast was announced, right? There we found out that it was an all-female cast. Which is, it happens. Things get changed around sometimes, whatever. But anyway, so there was a lot of hate for this movie. There was a lot of people coming out and saying that, like, how dare they ruin my childhood? How dare they ruin Ghostbusters? And all that, and so forth and so on. I'm sure if you've been on YouTube, you've been on message boards, you've heard it all. Anyway.
Yeah, and honestly, like, if you think a film is gonna ruin your childhood,
you had a pretty weak-ass childhood.
Weird childhood.
Yeah, you have such a weak childhood where like one fucking movie is gonna ruin it.
Not only that, but you also are unaware of the existence of VHS tapes, DVDs, and Blu-rays.
Let's not forget Beta.
And Laserdiscs.
Laserdisc, that's right. So the studio started firing back, along with Paul Feig, and saying that like if you did not like this movie, or if you're hating on it, you're simply sexist, misogynist, you're a chauvinist, whatever. And I'm almost certain that like a very small portion of these so-called haters, and I hate using haters because I'm a 35-year-old man. I hate using that stuff. But anyway, these so-called haters, there really is a small portion of that population that maybe they are chauvinists, maybe they are sexist. Right? So it got to the point where, like, if you remotely criticized this new Ghostbusters, you were a chauvinist pig.
Then you have the other side of that argument, which kind of goes like, if you don't hate this movie like we hate this movie, you don't like Ghostbusters. You are not a fan of Ghostbusters.
That's right.
You didn't grow up with Ghostbusters.
Yeah, you must be a poser or
and
something.
like I have obviously grown up with Ghostbusters.
As have I.
And I love that movie. I love Ghostbusters 2. I know Ghostbusters 2 gets a lot of hate.
I like Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, Ghostbusters 2 is fun, man.
I like Ghostbusters 2.
Maybe the narrative is a little weaker than the first Ghostbusters, like Vigo and his mission, and he really didn't need that baby at the end, because he just possessed Dan Aykroyd.
Remember when he was dressed like Milos or whatever was dressed as like the nanny and comes and
whatever his name I didn't understand. Like as a kid, you don't really question it, but as an adult, you're like,
really?
Why did he do that?
Yeah, really. And by the way, I'd like to add that Janine looked a lot hotter in part 2. By the way.
Oh my god, that short hair. And then, like, making out with Mick Moranis and everything. Genius idea.
That's right. That gave all nerds and geeks hope. that we could all like grow
you
up and
can
get a
also
chick
net
like Janine.
this redheaded beauty, nerd beauty.
Yeah, imagine being that kid. You're fantasizing about Janine, and you're like, man, I really want a piece of that. And like, she opens up a robe and she's like, Ghostbusters, what do you want? But did you feel, after watching this movie, did you feel like it ruined your childhood? Do you feel like it ruined Ghostbusters for you?
It didn't ruin Ghostbusters.
No.
Because I can always go back and watch the originals. This is actually very harmless. It is a harmless movie in the sense that it's mediocre. If Tommy Wiseau directed this movie and it was just a train wreck from beginning to end, then it might be damaging to like the franchise or whatever. But it's not going to damage my child. I already lived my childhood. And I have those movies. And I can always relive those movies. Anytime I want.
Those movies are always going to exist.
Those are always going to exist.
They're always, to me, they're going to exist. They're on Blu-ray now. They're everywhere.
And if you're a good parent, you're going to show those movies to your kids before you show them the new movie.
And if you don't, then fucking shame on you.
You know what? I liked the museum part a little bit because it felt like a little like a Ghostbusters movie. Here's something I felt about Ghostbusters is that it's a mediocre film with good parts and bad parts. And to me, it was like a roller coaster throughout the film, like, oh, here's something that's just kind of meandering, and then here's something really cool and really funny, and then it goes back to just kind of being, and then something stupid happens, and then they redeem themselves just a tiny bit with something kind of funny and everything, and that actually happens with the opening title because, like, you get this really cool looking, like, ghost sequence like you would like you did in Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, and it goes into that Ray Parker Jr. song, Ghost, and then the worst titles came on. Like it wasn't like in Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, you had like the Ghostbuster logo and it's kind of misty. It looked like a fucking ghost, and this one was just like ghost, but like in hard. Copper plate gothic or whatever the fucking font they used, right? Like just it felt stale and cold.
Well, up until that point, it's funny you mentioned how like it felt like a Ghostbusters movie, right? At this point, I'm watching this and I'm like, huh, holy shit, I'm digging this. Yes, okay, I can see where this is headed, and I like where this is headed. Okay, and then the title card came on. It's kind of like, okay, right. Let's step it back a little bit, and then we go into the the parts like the rest of the film and all of that.
I like all of these actresses. I liked Melissa McCarthy. I've been a big fan of since Gilmore Girls. I met her while she was still at Groundlings, actually, here in Hollywood. And I have a big respect for her. I have a big respect for Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig's character was such a one-note character for me. It was just like they didn't give her anything to do. The Leslie Jones character, which I actually felt was a really great character. Actually, it became a really good character.
She actually did become very instrumental throughout the entire movie. I felt like she was like the street smart one. She did the whole thing. It was like, oh hell no. Right? She did all that stuff. Is like, okay, no, I'm just going to turn around. I'm just going to go home. Like the typical, like, black woman kind of stuff going on in movies, right? But I think I love the way she kind of like evolved throughout the entire movie, and
she was really the only one to evolve throughout.
Yeah,
the movie.
she was really the only one who evolved throughout the entire movie.
Everybody kind of stayed the same.
Yeah, and she was instrumental throughout. Like every time, they were presented with a problem, she's the one who kind of like came along and says, "Oh, I got a solution for it. Like my uncle has a car, my this and that.
That's true. That's very true.
I know about this place. Oh, that place, there was a big shooting there. Oh, there was like she was like."
If there was a problem, she would solve it.
She was the
Check out this hook. Well, never mind.
So, and then
Kate McKinnon.
What did you think about that?
I liked Holtzman, but she wasn't given much to do. Like, I liked the fact that she was going to be like that weird, quirky, scientific character and everything, and she's kind of hot. And
half chub.
And they just didn't her character didn't evolve. We didn't get involved.
She's very one-dimensional
with that character. Exactly,
very one-dimensional,
very one-dimensional, very underdeveloped character, and I was very disappointed because I wanted so much from that character. Because at first, when we were first introduced to that character, I swear to God, I thought, oh, she's probably going to be the Bill Murray of the group now, because she was getting like the really good jokes and everything. And then as soon as she was introduced, she got a lot more screen time than the other two that were introduced before her. And that just wasn't the case, actually. It just kind of reverted. And
however, going back, just to add on to that, did you notice that she had a lot of like miscellaneous reaction shots? Like, she was just more reactionary to everything going on. Like, every time somebody said something stupid, or... Which was a lot of stupid.
No.
Every time somebody said stupid, they went to her, like...
Absolutely.
Like winking, smiling.
Like, when Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy, Yates and whoever, they were talking with the receptionist or whatever, and everything, they kept coming back to her because she wasn't talking to the, like, Chris Hemsworth character at all. She was just, like...
Or winking, or smiling, or doing something, right?
And I love Kate McKinnon when she winks and smiles. So, that mayor office sequence... Oh my God. I think, other than the end credit sequence, was the worst part of that movie for me. Because... the mayor sequence in the original Ghostbusters, it was really serious. The guy's like, well, what do you want me to do? Tell all the New York to be nice to her. That was Ghostbusters 2. But, same fucking thing. They met the mayor twice, and they were like,
But Lenny...
Lenny, you will have saved the lives of millions of registered voters.
Get that man out of here.
We didn't get that with this film. The mayor... and his assistant, and then the two FBI guys.
Dumb.
The two FBI guys were just
dumb.
Like, I understand it's a Paul Feig film, because it's not a Ghostbuster film. It's Paul Feig's Ghostbusters, not Ghostbusters. So that's something you kind of note before walking into that film, I guess. But yeah, everybody was just like, I didn't know why they were so dumb. Like, these were goofy, dumb characters. It was just like... Remember that cop from The Hangover? When he tased, Zach Galifianakis
in the face.
That's how these characters came off to me. They were just like, we're just kind of bumbling around. And I'm like... I understand this is a new direction for this new franchise, but have some... dignity to your characters, yes. Give us the audience something to at least care about going forward.
Also, speaking of which, do you remember also, like, one of the biggest complaints when people actually started seeing this film, this flick, when he started saying, like, watching this flick, they were saying, like, oh, every single male in this movie is either creepy, dumb, or an asshole. And I was like, all right, whatever. But did you also notice that almost every other female character was pretty
creepy, dumb, or an asshole? Like, it's not a male or female thing. I think it's just a character thing. Yeah. Every other character but the main four characters were either
is creepy, dumb, or an asshole. It doesn't matter if you were male or female. You were creepy, dumb, or an asshole in this movie. It's just ridiculous. Everybody was a fucking cartoon in this movie, man.
It's not a sexist movie, and it's not a feminist movie.
It's not.
It's actually just a neutral, silly comedy. I think that's where we got lost, though, because Ghostbusters, while it can be silly at times, it's not throughout silly. It's more sarcastic. It's more, like, kind of cynical.
The humor's a lot different. Definitely.
The humor in this remake and then the original is totally different. Because, like I said before, you're gonna get Paul Feig humor in this movie. Well, in the other one, you're gonna get Harold Ramis humor. Bill Murray humor.
They basically went for Bridesmaids with proton packs. That's what it was. It wasn't a Ghostbusters movie with women.
Minus the Melissa McCarthy overacting.
Oh, speaking of which
she was very concentrated here.
I think Melissa McCarthy's character she was actually very reserved in this one.
This is the most reserved we see Melissa McCarthy since Bridesmaids.
And I have Melissa McCarthy fatigue, because she's Melissa McCarthy is the white female version of Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart is the same character in every movie, right? That's what she is. She's the same. She's loudmouth. She's potty mouth. Did I see potty mouth? What the fuck?
Yeah, no, she's potty mouth.
She's like, hey, I'm gonna fuck you in the head with a popsicle. That's her.
Yeah.
In this one, she's very reserved. I think the most.
By the way, Kevin Hart did a great job in Secret Life of Pets.
Yeah, fine. But anyway, I think the most racy joke, if you want to consider that, was when she's like, oh, something, yeah, your mama. And then she's like, no, I'm just kidding. I think very highly of your mother, kind of thing. That was like it. That was the only small glimpse of like typical Melissa McCarthy. Did you laugh throughout this movie?
Not throughout this movie. There were parts here and there that I did laugh. There were some genuinely funny jokes. I wouldn't say they were Ghostbuster jokes. They were not like they were Paul Fig jokes.
They weren't like this man has no dick jokes.
Yeah, they were not like freaking or
get her, Ray.
This town has so many holes. I didn't think anybody would notice.
Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, I love that joke. But best joke in that movie.
But it's the humor's completely different. It's more on the dick and fart joke level of things. And so yeah, there were a lot of places where I did generally laugh a lot. What I did realize is that the other people in the theater with me, they were really genuinely having a good time throughout this movie.
Yeah, and you know what? There were people behind me too that were genuinely having a good time as well. Not the entire audience, and the audience for me was very small. I'm gonna say like 30 people, maybe less.
It was even smaller for
it was like maybe less. It could have been anywhere between 20 and 30 people in that theater, and half of that were laughing the entire time. And then there was like a few jokes, like maybe one or two jokes where everybody laughed.
Yeah, there was a couple of times where people were genuinely laughing, and then there's other times when people are laughing and I'm like, bruh, what the fuck, But yeah, so like I think, okay, so going back to that, I think there really is an audience for this movie, and the thing is, it's okay if you like this movie. It's okay for you to like this movie. If you say that you like this movie, it's okay. I'm not going to say you're an asshole. I'm not going to say that you have no taste in movies. Because, there's an audience for everything, right? I mean, there's a reason Tyler Perry movies make money. There's an audience for everything. So this movie is not made for Ghostbusters fans. I will tell you that first and foremost.
But it panders a lot to Ghostbusters fans, but it wasn't made for Ghostbusters fans.
But this is not a movie.
Interesting.
This is not a movie for Ghostbusters fans. It was very confusing for me because I genuinely wanted to enjoy this movie. I really, because I'm like, okay, we finally get a Ghostbusters movie. Let's hope that it's good. Right? Let's hope that it's good.
Yeah, and I was actually kind of like when a couple previews before the movie actually started, I was just kind of like, I was getting a little like kind of antsy. I was just like, oh my god, I'm going to see a Ghostbusters movie for the first time since 1989. I was like, cool, man, because I remember seeing Ghostbusters 2 in the theater. I was a kid, but I remember like I took like my fucking my Ghostbuster fucking water gun.
1989.
Yeah.
If you even have the slightest idea of what story structure is, then you're able to tell whether the movie fails or not.
This didn't have good story structure, but I'm gonna say but. There's a but here. Knowing the development hell that this was coming from, this movie came from this 25 plus years of when are we going to get a Ghostbusters 3? When are we going to get another Ghostbusters? And all the incarnations of the script that Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis wrote.
And I think at one point the guys from the writers of The Office were hired. Because they wrote Year One for Ivan Reitman. Yeah.
And they had a script as well. And each script, even this movie, has Bill Murray dying. Because Bill Murray specifically said, I don't want to be in another Ghostbusters film unless Peter Venkman dies. And although he doesn't play Peter Venkman in this movie, his character still bites it.
That's right, he dies.
He dies.
He got his wish. He plays a cynic and dies. By the way, I think that scene, that whole thing, was useless. I think at that point, that movie just went to a screeching halt.
There was a lot of useless things.
There was a lot of stuff, and it's like they had to pause. They had to so the movie was flowing, and then they would have to pause. It's like, huh? Old Ghostbusters? Wink, wink. Old Ghostbusters? And continue. Me, personally, I think this movie could have been good. It could have been good. It could have been something pretty solid if they had a different director. I think if they had a stronger script. Because, you know, the fact that it was an all-female cast, it did not turn me off. It didn't. I'm like, okay, fine. You know,
it didn't turn me off either. It didn't turn me off either.
I love strong female characters.
Me too.
In film.
I fucking love the bride.
Starting with Ellen Ripley. You know,
Sigourney Weaver, motherfuckers. I love, like, she is like, her fucking Linda Hamilton are like the strongest female characters to ever come out of the fucking cinema, man.
I think this movie could have been good. It had a stronger script, had a different director. I mean, I like Feig movies, Paul Feig movies, but this one just wasn't for him.
Yeah,
it just wasn't for him. And you know, I think if the characters were a little more fleshed out. So anyway, they go to the theater. They capture this fucking this dragon looking thing, and so they go out, and everybody's like, "Who are you? Who are you?" And then Kristen Wiig's character, she goes to the camera and she says, "We're the Ghostbusters!" And right out, I swear to God, I thought they were going to go into like a typical Ghostbusters ghost-busting montage, right? I ain't afraid of... Like they were gonna show clips of them like running around town, and then people were going to, like, you know, become more and more aware of them. They were going to... The whole city was going to know who the Ghostbusters was, like, you know, were. And, you know, they were going to start to love them, right? And then, no, but instead of going into a montage,
it kind of stops.
It stops. They go back to the headquarters, and that's where Bill Murray's character
comes in,
and it just stops. Yeah, it just completely stops from that point on. It didn't build up. Now, kind of like plateaued at that level as far as like the quality of film. And at that point, it was a series of like bantering, them practicing and learning to use new equipment. And by the way, the villain, I'm like, what was the point of that?
The villain was not kosher. It was not even vegan.
And then they get to the climax and just belly flops, complete belly flops. And okay, so after they save the day, they shoot the ghost boss in the dick. They do, by the way. They shoot the fucking ghost boss in the dick.
Which I'm gonna say this. I will say this about the main ghost in the movie, is that it was kind of cool to see the Ghostbuster logo become their main villain.
And it was nice to see.
And I was like, that's a good idea. I wish it was executed better, because he became like this. Because the ghost logo becomes like. He transforms into the ghost logo. It becomes
the main persona
villain
of Ghostbusters. The very image, when you think Ghostbusters, is the first thing you think, and it becomes the villain. They make it the villain.
And they make it the villain. I thought that was kind of cool. Remember what I said here, though. Like it was a good idea. It just wasn't executed properly. And then he became more or less like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man of the film. Because he became giant and started like bashing things.
By the way, so because there's like, you know, the second act, they kind of like not really develop anything. At the end of the movie, again, you know, after they save the day, after they shoot the ghost boss in the dick, they save the day. There's a scene. Yeah.
Saving the day!
Anyway, so they're on the rooftop and they look out, and the entire city, all the sky rises, the lights, they switch them around. It says, "We love you, Ghostbusters. We love you, Ghostbusters," which to me felt forced, because they remember how like
I thought that was kind of
which kind of went back full circle into that whole montage thing that never happened. So there was never enough time to like for the city to know who they were and to love them. And okay, so to me, it would have worked better if like it went into that montage. They loved them. They became the city's heroes. Then you bring in the mayor, and they're considered frauds. They get arrested or whatever, and then they come back for the elixir. They save the day. Everybody knows to save the day, and then you see all the sky rises, where it says "We love you, Ghostbusters."
And in some respects, I will say that these ghosts did like break a bunch of buildings and everything, and the Ghostbusters did save the day.
The one male on the team, because he ends up on the team. The one male on the team ends up getting a sandwich in the end. Bitch, make me a sandwich! And he gets a fucking sandwich, right? So no, this is not a feminist movie. Because a man gets a fucking sandwich in the end.
That is...
And they take it.
That is kind of sexist.
And then the women try to take the characters. They try to take the sandwich away from him and throw it away, and somebody throws it back to him. Why? Because he's a fucking man, and a man deserves his fucking sandwich.
Oh my gosh!
Huh?
Wow.
Fuck yeah! This ain't no fucking feminist movie. For the climax of the film, this huge fucking thing, the villain, they're able to open up this portal, and they end up using the Ecto-1 as... Ecto-1 to this movie is the Randy Quaid to Independence Day. Right? It goes into the thing and it fucking destroys everything. So, nothing was explained. They're going in, they're like, oh, okay, all of a sudden they're like, that thing has like a nuclear warhead on top, and then you don't shoot at it, and then they're like, oh, that was never established as far as gadgets goes.
Yeah, they never explained what they put onto the Ecto-1 or the purpose it was going to serve later or anything. It was just like, hey, we're going to outfit the Ecto-1 with this and this and this. Like, they didn't do that with the original movies because they didn't put anything on except for sirens. And then it wasn't until the cartoon that they used it for like ghost hunting and stuff. And then even then they explained what they were going to do with the Ecto-1 in the cartoon. The sequence I felt was standard blockbuster, summer blockbuster fare. I just I didn't connect with it. It was no build up. It was just kind of cool to look at. It was very much it was like a CGI fest. There's ghosts and there's stuff happening and things flying and I'm just like,
all right, guys. So bottom line, if you're a Ghostbusters fan, you grew up with the original films and you watched the real Ghostbusters. Chances are there's a strong chance that you're not going to enjoy this film because I recommend you go in there.
We barely enjoyed this film.
I recommend you go in there. Do your best not to compare it to the originals because then you're going to lose your shit.
Maybe with an open mind.
Open mind, go in there and just be like, I see a lot of the comments and like the people and the comments are usually the same like, I hear this movie is sexist. I see a lot of reviews. Just go in there and see it for yourself. You don't have to go pay to see this movie. You can wait till it's on TV or Netflix. Something, but watch it for yourself and don't base what you're gonna watch or like or not like based on what other fucking assholes are saying. So, just be warned. You may or may not, you may either be like, okay, it's alright, or you may just be like really disappointed. I was somewhat disappointed. I'm not going to say that I hated it. I'm just saying I'm disappointed.
Don't go in there thinking this is Ghostbusters. No. Think of it as superpower Dare to Die team.
Yeah, whatever the fuck he just said.
But it's the Chinese translation of the movie. You're not missing anything if you don't go see this movie, and you're not going to gain anything if you do go see this movie. It's just that simple. It's a very simple-minded, mediocre summer blockbuster that
generic studio
that will go in that is in the theaters now. Like you said, will be forgotten in like 2 months, man.
It'll be in the clearance bin at Best Buy in about a year.
It should have been a sequel to the original Ghostbusters films. Absolutely passing the torch. I know the cameos were supposed to signify passing the torch, but they really kind of weren't.
Useless.
Cameos were terrible. I was just thinking about this on the drive home from the movie theater yesterday, and I was thinking, this would have been great, because, and it's kind of shades of The Force Awakens, which they should have taken cues from. The Force Awakens is a very good sequel to something that people were kind of against at first and then really for, and then Harrison Ford came back and as Han Solo, and all of their old characters came back as their old characters, while still introducing us to the new characters as to signify passing up the torch. And this is kind of what this Ghostbusters should have been. It should have been like the Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy characters encountering something that they could not handle, seeking out the specialty, seeking out Ray's occult books, and then going to see Ray Stanson. I'm like, hey, we have this problem. Could you help us? And we know what you did for the city like a long time ago. And then he would have been like,
shit. Kate McKinnon's character could have been my uncle. Egon could have been her uncle, or say like, even though like a good way to pay homage to this is like, these designs were passed down for me from my uncle Egon. Or something.
Or that could have been good, or maybe like Ray Stantz was the one that introduces that character to them. It was like, well, we don't do that anymore. Maybe like Egon died or something. That's why they stopped Ghostbusting, because they had a fatality and they just didn't want to do it again. And then that could have set up like a cameo from Bill Murray later in the film where he dies too, and then they suffer another casualty and they just bond together more. And you can still have the comedy in that. You know, it doesn't have to be serious like the way I guess I'm sounding right now. But I mean, that sounds like a better story than what we've been given, and I just fucking made that up in the 10-minute drive. From the 10-minute drive home last night.
It's okay to not like this movie,
and it's okay to like this movie. But if you're looking for a Ghostbusters film, you're not gonna get one. You're gonna get a silly, goofy, kind of stupid comedy, and it's okay for that, which it is.
It's okay. In my opinion, I think it's okay if this, and I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this, but I think this movie, it's okay that this movie exists, and we can coexist.
It doesn't matter that this movie exists.
Yeah,
that's what it is. So this movie exists. So what? I don't give a fuck.
If you want to continue reading good Ghostbusters stories, everybody always says, like, the first thing they always say is the Ghostbusters video game. I love it. You can continue the comics. IDW Publishing has a great series on Ghostbusters.
I really don't like the animation in those.
Yeah, okay,
drawings.
but I'm just saying,
very cartoonish.
They're pretty good stories. So if you want to continue reading Ghostbusters stuff, you want to continue the storylines, then I recommend Ghost. IDW Publishing, like I said, has some good stuff there, and the video game.
That's pretty much our summary of the film. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you like this or any other videos on the channel, please like and subscribe. This is Manny Film Rascal. I am Geektoid, and until next time, live long and geek on.